Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis seems to be running scared as she's now personally asking the Georgia Court of Appeals, as of Monday, not to reconsider the ruling that allows her to stay in the election interference case against former President Donald Trump and several of his allies. This after Judge Scott McAfee himself greenlighted the appeal from Donald Trump and his co-defendants, letting them file an application with the state appeals court urging it to take up the case to once and for all disqualify Fani Willis from the Georgia election case. Furthermore, Willis's office has been in the spotlight very recently due to a shouting match between a judge and a lead prosecutor from Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis's office during the YSL trial involving rapper Young Thug. Adding to the controversy, Fulton County DA Fani Willis seems to believe that her office can't be sued in any open records case. So the DA has been subpoenaed by the U.S. House Judiciary Committee to produce records related to Trump's investigation. Fani Willis has been threatened with contempt of Congress by U.S. Representative Jim Jordan, who chairs the powerful House Judiciary Committee. Now, for months, Jim Jordan's committee has been demanding details of Willis's investigation into her charges that former President Donald Trump and several of his GOP allies engaged in a criminal conspiracy to overturn Georgia's 2020 presidential election. Quote, "The records requested by plaintiff are exempt from disclosure under the plain language of the Open Records Act," end quote. Now, this is coming from Fani Willis. She goes on to say, quote, "Even if plaintiff had named an entity capable of being sued in the present civil action, this court cannot provide plaintiff relief because the records are exempt under the plain language of the statute," end quote. Now, apart from this major conflict of interest with regard to Willis's romantic relationship with her hired prosecutor Nathan Wade, Donald Trump's attorney Steve Siddall also took issue with the church speech that Willis gave, suggesting that the criticism that Nathan Wade faced stemmed from being the only black special prosecutor that she hired. Now, for Steve Siddall, Fani Willis's church speech portrayed an attempt to foment racial animus against Donald Trump and his co-defendants to take focus off of Willis's romance. And while the trial court, i.e. Judge Scott McAfee, factually found DA Fani Willis's out-of-court statements were improper and the defendants proved an apparent conflict of interest, the trial judge, again, talking about Judge Scott McAfee here, erred as a matter of law by not requiring dismissal and DA Fani Willis's disqualification. So they say that this legal error requires the court's immediate review. And hey, sure looks like the American people agree, as a petition to get Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis disqualified from former President Donald Trump's election interference case has already received over 60,000 signatures. Now, as they said in this petition, this case is not just about President Trump. This is about ending the two-tiered system of justice and defeating political prosecutions. So right now, Georgia is ground zero in this fight. So they're filing on behalf of every American because this impacts you. This impacts your vote and our entire constitutional system of justice. I mean, at the very least, they should reconsider considering putting a gag order on Fani Willis. Co-defendants in Donald Trump's election interference case are reportedly considering asking for it. One defense attorney involved in the conversations about a potential gag order said that the idea has been tossed around and that, frankly, as she continues to make outrageous public statements, she's digging herself further and further into a hole. I guess they may be referring to Fani Willis's that flew in the face of the recent order by Judge Scott McAfee, in which he said that her racially charged rhetoric of playing the race card was legally improper. So during her remarks at the South Fulton Women of Shields Award, Fani Willis said that it's hard out here always having to prove yourself 2 and 3 times. That recently they tell her that they don't like her to talk about race. Well, she gonna talk about it anyway. Well, she may also find herself talking all the way to a potential disqualification at the rate she's going. And so in this video, we're going to take a look at the controversies surrounding Fani Willis, the implications of her actions, and exactly how this case should or could shape the landscape of political accountability in the United States. This is not just some legal battle. This is a reflection of the deep divisions within our country and the ongoing debate over fairness and justice in the American legal system. So make sure you guys stay tuned until the very end, all right? All right, so first, just a real quick breakdown of what DA Fani Willis is asking. Here, check this out.
On Tuesday, Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis defending a trial court ruling that lets her stay on the election interference probe.
Whenever a petition is filed by a defendant, the district attorney's office has the right to respond, and that's all they did today.
Former President Donald Trump and several of his co-defendants want Willis off the case and the indictment dismissed altogether. That's why they filed a request for interlocutory review with the Georgia Court of Appeals.
If they choose to hear it, they then would likely hold oral arguments as to why the law was improperly applied. That could take several more weeks, possibly even a month.
If that happens, Emory Law School professor John Acevedo says the appellate court wouldn't look at new facts or new witnesses.
So whatever witnesses said, they're kind of stuck with. And we'll now look to simply ask the question, was the law applied properly in this instance? And that, since it becomes much more of a legal argument.
Now, of course, her request isn't going to fly when a lot of people are already calling her a legal thug. I even read one comment from a recent video talking about her, saying that she demonstrates that corruption has no color. And you can see how things are really getting to her. She even asked the appeals court not to consider Donald Trump's disqualification bid against her. Specifically, she asked the Georgia Court of Appeals not to reconsider Judge Scott McAfee's ruling, allowing her to continue overseeing the election interference case against President Donald Trump and several allies. Hey everyone, I would just like to take a moment to thank the sponsor of today's video, Austin Gold Corp. So Austin Gold Corp is a company that explores for gold and is listed on the New York Stock Exchange with the symbol AUST. You should be able to see that on your screen right now. It has a market value of about $17 million with approximately 13 million shares available and only 6 million shares actively traded, which is relatively few. Now, currently gold prices are at their highest ever, driven up by the global economic concerns, market instability, and influences from the BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. As a result, the gold market has been booming and seems to be reaching new highs almost every week. Austin Gold's stock price has risen significantly from 66 cents to $1.69 in just a few months due to these high gold prices, anticipation of positive drilling results, and many other factors. The company is working on 3 initial stage projects, which is often seen as the optimal time to invest in such companies because if they discover significant amounts of gold, their stock could explode. Now, 2 of these projects are located in Nevada, a prime area for gold exploration, and 1 is in Oregon. The Oregon project has already shown promising results, with tests revealing a good concentration of gold over a substantial length. The company is managed by a team known for their expertise in developing successful companies such as Pretium, SSR Mining, and Energy Fuels, having previously elevated 3 companies to values over $1 billion. Now, the team includes geologists who have discovered significant amounts of gold and silver. With a skilled team, early project stages, a listing on a major stock exchange, and an expected gold market boom, Austin Gold is well positioned. They're fully financed for their upcoming drilling program, and if drilling results are positive, it could significantly impact the company's success in the current gold market. Now, of course, investors should always perform their own due diligence before making any financial decisions. This is not to be considered financial advice, nor am I a financial advisor. To learn more about Austin Gold Corp, click the link in the description down below or search them on the New York Stock Exchange under ticker symbol AUST. Now, back to our program. So Judge Scott McAfee ruled last month that Fani Willis's previous romance with ex-special prosecutor Nathan Wade, it created an appearance of a conflict, not an actual conflict, according to the judge. However, he allowed Fani Willis to remain on the case after Wade resigned. And so this is why Donald Trump and his co-defendants filed the appeal asserting that the romance and other actions by Willis amount to more. So Donald Trump's attorney, Steve Sadow, has specifically pointed to a church speech that Willis gave suggesting that the criticism that Wade received was based on race. Basically, Sadow is saying that Fani Willis has been muddying the waters and making it about race. Now, to be specific, he said that Fani Willis' speech was an attempt to foment racial animus against Donald Trump and his co-defendants to take the focus off of Willis's romance. So while the trial court factually found DA Fani Willis's out-of-court statements were improper and defendants proved an apparent conflict of interest, the court, meaning Judge Scott McAfee, he erred as a matter of law by not requiring dismissal and DA Fani Willis's disqualification. So basically they're saying that the legal error requires the court's immediate review. Now, if the appeals court takes up the defense's application, well, it could cause further delays. which would be in Donald Trump's favor, as he probably wants to do all of this after the election day. That way he can concentrate on beating Biden in November. But I gotta say, guys, the disqualification bid against Fani Willis, it's not without merit. I mean, many people, a lot of them from Georgia, they're saying that Fani Willis has been a terrible DA in Fulton County, and she's already made it very clear to all of us as to how corrupt she is. Proof? A petition to get Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis disqualified from former President Donald Trump's election interference case, it's already received over 60,000 signatures. I mean, like, the whole thing started with Fani Willis prosecuting Trump and 18 others for allegedly trying to flip the 2020 election results in Georgia. But the spotlight has been shifted, and now it's Willis that's on the hot seat. Thanks to the scandal involving a romantic entanglement with Nathan Wade, a special prosecutor that she brought on board for the case, someone who many say had virtually no experience in high-profile cases like this, but nonetheless received at least $653,000 in his time being there. And so this is why critics cried foul, claiming that their relationship was a conflict of interest and calling for her removal. Somehow she still managed to hold her position though, under the stipulation that Nathan Wade stepped down, which he did. But the question remains, is this enough? So the petition from the American Center of Law and Justice says no. Now, according to its text, their senior legal team, including their own former Georgia prosecutor, is filing a critical amicus brief urging the Georgia Court of Appeals to hear this vital case and disqualify Fani Willis. Now, as they said, this case isn't just about Donald Trump. This is about ending the two-tiered system of justice and defeating political prosecutions. Georgia is ground zero in this fight. They're filing on behalf of every American because this impacts you, your vote, and our entire constitutional system of justice. Definitely a lot of people backing this thing. In fact, it kind of reminds me of that GoFundMe campaign that was started by Elena Cardone, wife of real estate millionaire Grant Cardone. I just checked and it's already reached the $2 million point with over 33.6 thousand donations pouring in. I think the American people are pretty much making their voices heard loud and clear here. So stay tuned as we break down these complex issues, bring in expert opinions, and provide clear insights into what all this means for you and the future of American politics. Remember to hit the like button, guys, subscribe if you haven't already, and ring that notification bell to stay updated on our deep dives into the most pressing legal and political issues of our time. And we're not done with this one yet, guys, so don't go away. So yeah, even if Fani Willis doesn't get disqualified, a gag order could be in order for her, especially with how even after Judge Scott McAfee scolded her for playing a race card, Fani Willis still says she gonna talk about it anyway. So during her remarks at the South Fulton Women of the Shields Award, Fani Willis said that it's hard out here always having to prove yourself 2 and 3 times. She said recently that they don't want her talking about race. Well, she says she gonna talk about it anyway. Now, Fani Willis's comments seem to be in reference to the recent order from Judge Scott McAfee in which he said that her racially charged rhetoric of playing the race card was legally improper and that these were dangerous legal waters that she was wading into. Fox News legal editor Carrie Cupic Urban commented how former President Donald Trump is experiencing a double standard when it comes to gag orders and why Fulton County, Georgia District Attorney Fani Willis should be issued a gag order very similar to Donald Trump's. She explained that the purpose of gag orders is to prevent harm to the case or the people involved in the case that otherwise could not be undone. And who have they been concentrating their gag orders on? That's right, former President Donald Trump. Now, Urban's issue is, how is the harm that they say Donald Trump is causing by tweeting about political bias, how is it any different or worse than, say, the district attorney in Georgia talking publicly about the case, saying things like, God is on my side, or Letitia James, the attorney general in New York, salivating over properties that Trump owns on Twitter, live tweeting all of these events. She even made a good point about how if I were a potential juror in Fulton County, how would I not be intimidated by the district attorney, a very powerful law enforcement officer making all of these comments? Would I not be nervous to not potentially want to side with her if I'm on that jury? She even cited the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, that she described as no friend of Donald Trump, and yet they still suggested that gag orders against the former president are election interference. Even Democratic strategist Karen Finney warned Fani Willis to rein herself in and stop doing media interviews ahead of the court hearing. She said that Fani Willis Willis has already made herself a character in this saga and that she's got to bring it down and stay focused on doing the job of prosecuting this case. Even Judge Scott McAfee in this ruling about the disqualification suggested that a gag order could be imposed on the Fulton County District Attorney's Office to prevent it from mentioning the case against former President Donald Trump and the other co-defendants in the public setting. He related it to Fani Willis's controversial church speech about race and said that the time may have well arrived for an order preventing the state from mentioning the case in any public forum to prevent prejudicial pretrial publicity, but that is not the motion presently before the court. In his 23-page ruling, the judge criticized the district attorney at multiple turns, both for the relationship and for her public comments during her testimony. Now, one of the defense attorneys said that the idea of a gag order against Fani Willis has been tossed around, and that frankly, as she continues to make these public outrageous statements, she's digging herself further and further into a hole. After Fani Willis's recent remarks, Donald Trump's attorney Steve Siddall also commented on social media about apparently Judge Scott McAfee's warning to Fani Willis in his disqualification order about the case in a public forum is just simply being ignored. Now, does this really surprise anybody? Michael J. Moore, the former U.S. attorney for the Middle District of Georgia, said some of the recent comments have been like a thumb in the eye of the judge. Now, there's definitely a whole lot of controversy when it comes to this Georgia case against Donald Trump, and DA Fani Willis certainly is not helping things with her public remarks about it. But what do you guys think? A gag order or total disqualification for Fani Willis? Drop your thoughts in the comment section down below, and I'll be sure to read them before the next one. Make sure you guys are always tuned in, subscribe to the channel, tap that notification bell, share this video on Facebook and Twitter, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.